Hi, I'm Fiona Kirkman, and today I'll be presenting on the topic Navigating FDR in Uncertain Times Using Innovative Technology with a showcase of family property. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting, and I pay my respects to their elders past and present. Little about me, my vision is to empower separated families to resolve disputes more efficiently and amicably, utilising family dispute resolution and legal technology. My practice, Kirkman Family Law, specialises exclusively in family mediation and collaborative coach work with a focus on resolution without court. I'm also the CEO and legal founder of FamilyProperty, which is a legal tech platform for the family law profession that simplifies separation and automates the admin of family law mediations and matters from intake through to balance sheets, to interactive calendars, to agreements. So I want to make this as interactive as possible. There will be hopefully time for questions at the end, but just want you to write down maybe 5 things as to the biggest challenges you've found in navigating FDR during COVID times. And then I'm going to look at those things and give you some tips on navigating some of those challenges. So some of the practical challenges, I have spoken to my peers, and some of them have said, these are the top 5 from my discussions with them. One is that transitioning from face-to-face mediation to online mediation. I know for myself, I was probably doing 90% plus face-to-face mediation prior to COVID hitting, and now it's the reverse. And I really enjoy online mediation, and so I'll probably continue to do that as opposed to going back to more face-to-face. Secondly, people are concerned around the loss of interpersonal connection and the ability to read and pick up on non-verbal communication. You can't see my body language, what I'm doing with my hands, or my full body attire that I'm wearing Ugg boots at the moment. And how can you adapt with online mediation to make sure you're picking up on those non-verbal cues? Concerns around lack of privacy has been highlighted as a challenge, and confidentiality, particularly in lockdown, who's present, who can overhear, etc. For managing work from home yourself, you might be homeschooling as well as trying to be a mediator, and the challenges that is inherent within that. I know for myself with 2 primary school children. And lastly, that lack of available mentoring and supervision, not having people near you in the same household that you can debrief with professionally. So some tips to navigating some of those practical challenges before we move into some of the tech challenges. Understanding the advantages and disadvantages of online versus face-to-face mediation. I know for myself, sometimes I love being face-to-face. You can read the room. In some respects, some people believe, there's a greater prospect of resolution if they're in the one room, they're feeling, they want to get it resolved, etc. But if you look at the research, there's been a lot on online FDR, and there's a lot of benefits. One is the faster and more efficient process, and the cost saving in the travel time, with everyone able to do it from their own home or office. And that is particularly helpful for people in rural and regional areas. You can have a national approach to your mediation practice. Secondly, that can lead to a more cost-effective process, not the cost of room hire or travel time for mediators, lawyers, etc. And then there's been some research around safety and family violence matters, and where there's safety concerns, that online can actually be a better process for them than face-to-face or of course court, and particularly with the functions of the video being able to be turned off, the audio off, the private rooms, and being more comfortable in the protection of their own home. So it's important to understand those advantages and disadvantages, but also then manage the expectations and establish ground rules. For me, I have discussions at the beginning, when on in their intake, in their pre-mediation conference, but also I've provided an update in the agreement to mediate specifically around online mediation expectations. Some of them are around the participants, who's to be present, making sure there's no one else within hearing, recording, so that they can't record any of the session on the computer, on their phone, the chat, etc. That they're focused completely on the mediation. They're not going to be distracted with work, and that they have that appropriate technology. And I do some sort of tests sometimes with the parties themselves and the lawyers. Are they familiar with video conferencing? Have they got good Wi-Fi, etc.? And it's really important to be more verbal and explain things. As I said, communication and not being able to pick up on those non-verbal cues and body language can be a bit problematic for online. So we can't make assumptions, and we need to explain ourselves a bit more and speak slowly and clearly without interruption. I've taken to doing a private sort of breakout session before I begin, just to check in, but also utilising the breakout sessions more frequently, just to check in to see how things are going. I've also utilised mediation students. I have a number of wonderful mediation students that I'm not only helping, but they're really helping me in being that extra set of eyes on how the parties are both reacting to the discussions and the negotiations. So I'd encourage you to take on mediation students or co-mediation co-mediators, particularly for those more complex matters where the emotions are high. It's all about being adaptive, as I've said, cooperative and solution focused and really flexible. I think we need to engage in an open, honest discussion with our parties, with the lawyers, and just navigate these difficult times of uncertainty. And to do that, I think having the help of our friends, so collaborating with other professionals. I know I work with a counselling background mediator, and she's really helpful. Work with a child consultant, a number of financial neutrals, and then I've got a number of lawyers I work with in different areas, as well as I have referrals to domestic violence caseworkers and other programs. So it's really that collaboration, and that also helps with self-care and debriefing. And I know a number of people are speaking on debriefing and the importance of that for family mediators. But what I wanted to highlight is I do have an online FDRP family mediators group, which now has about 550 mediators from around Australia. But I'd really encourage you to join that group if you haven't already. It's really aimed at supporting each other in our role as family mediators. So now I'll move into some technology challenges. And if you haven't already, I want you to list some of the technology challenges you've found in moving to online and during these COVID times in lockdowns, etc. What are some of the technology challenges? I've spoken again to my peers in regards to some technology challenges. The top 5 we've identified is one, lack of technology skills to use video technology and other legal tech platforms. And I think that was particularly problematic at the beginning when people weren't used to video conferencing, like, oh, how do I do the chat and the breakout rooms and the waiting room and share my screen, etc. But it's really about that learning the capabilities of the technology and getting the full use of the technology by practicing and being willing to change. Change management, I know, in the legal tech field is one of the biggest issues to overcome with utilising technology. Secondly, the online or electronic files compared to the physical documents and physical files. I know some of us have been thrown into that. We love our paper, but moving towards the electronic information, electronic exchange of documents, I think has been a big part of what we've had to do with COVID. I know for me, I love my Remarkable for recording my opening statements in mediations. That's been a real lifesaver. But also I'll showcase to you today FamilyProperty and how that can help in gathering information and documents and then exchanging that with the other party. Thirdly, a lot of mediators say, I love my whiteboard. And what are the options if you're doing it from online or from home to capture the relevant information and proposals? And we'll look at that specifically. And then drafting and signing of agreements reached in mediation. Parenting plans or heads of agreement in property mediations, how are we then documenting that efficiently and signing off on that. And then I think some people say, oh, I miss my admin support and working remotely. It's not, that resourcing's not necessarily on tap. And we'll discuss that briefly as well. So if we go into technology, I wanted to just introduce you to some tech platforms I use. There's some video conferencing ones. So Zoom, I don't think needs an introduction now. We're probably all a bit zoomed out. I think it's become a word in the English dictionary. Microsoft Teams, that's being utilised now for by the family law courts in their court events. FamilyProperty integrates with Mediation, which is an online dispute resolution platform specifically designed for assisting in mediations. There's also online intakes, so family law doors, and I know the family law courts have introduced the Lighthouse project, which is an adaptation of the family doors, looking at screening, risk assessment, family violence, etc. I know a lot of us were sending our clients off to face-to-face post-separation parenting courses. There's now quite a lot online. I know we refer clients to Relation Space, New Ways for Families, as well as post-separation communication apps. Our Family Wizard is one we refer a lot of clients to, but there's DeVito, Two Houses and others. And of course, FamilyProperty, which I'll showcase to you briefly. So as we said, what are some of, if we go into depth as to some of the tech challenges, that electronic file and gathering the information and documents. So what FamilyProperty does is it can help collect and disclose information and documents online and securely. Security, of course, is a really big issue at a time and place that suits your client. So do it on your mobile, 24/7 availability, and it really helps better prepare everyone for mediation. So I'll just showcase that to you now. As you can see here, when you create a matter in FamilyProperty, there's a lawyer matter, but there's also a mediator matter. So it's FamilyProperty is designed specifically tailored for mediators. So if we go mediator training, party A, questionnaire, we now have the functionality to do property mediations, parenting, or property and parenting. And we also have current situation, which is like the risk screening assessment as an optional questions that you can gather from your client. So if we press save here, we can go into the questionnaire. With the questionnaire, it can be done over a series of sittings, can take 5 minutes to 20 minutes, depending on how much information they put in, all auto saves. There's 4 different sections. One is general information, so personal details, relationship details. Really important for you to be aware of the time limitation periods. For example, married couples for 12 months after the divorce, that is the time limit. For de facto couples, 2 years after the date of separation. So gathering those dates, and also sets up an automatic chronology for you. The details of the children, of the relationship and other relationships. Living arrangements of the parties, but also the children. And then there's a whole section on property that's relevant for, of course, property mediation. When we look at property settlement, there's generally 4 steps involved. One is, what is the net asset pool? So the identity and value of each of the assets, liabilities and superannuation. And that's what we collect, the income and expenses, so employment, assets, liabilities and super. So if it's a yes, no, then we ask more questions. If it's a yes, liabilities, and what they understand to be the other parties like Sophia's assets, liabilities and super. The second step in the property settlement process, as you may be aware, is contributions. So looking at the past by way of contributions at commencement, while living together, and post-separation, as well as the other parties' contributions, of course, by way of homemaker, parenting, lump sum financial contributions, contributions by way of income. We've worked really closely with Professor Patrick Parkinson, who you may be aware of, an expert in property, and also helped with the establishment of the Family Relationship Centres, to really target the right questions, to get the right information to properly prepare everyone. Future needs, so primary carer, for example, primary carer, age, state of health, difference in income, earning capacity, so it asks information about that. As I said, with current situation, this is optional, but it does ask information about where they're at with legal, mediation, couple counselling, other professional advice. Do they feel sufficiently supported? If there's any other proceedings or orders in place. Then there's the whole section on family violence, which we've worked with some family violence experts in relation to, and it provides some information, brochures, helplines as well, and information about family violence orders, and some targeted questions, which really helps you as a practitioner when they come to, say, the pre-mediation session, to be prepared with a safety plan to discuss with them, etc., if there is family violence concerns. Capacity, so separation and stress brochures, as well as the helplines are still there, drug and alcohol issues, mental health, and other risk factors. And then parenting arrangements. So more details to add in regards to the education of the children, their health issues, and other factors relevant to the children. So once they've completed this questionnaire, I'll just show you briefly. You can then use FamilyProperty to actually collect the documents required for a property mediation, and potentially for a parenting as well. If there's AVOs, etc., you can collect that information through what we call the client portal. Now, in this client portal, the benefit of using this is that the recommendations are tailored to the client's specific situation. So there's a house that asks for an appraisal, council rates, and also to do tasks like get a free online property valuation, shares, get the share certificates, perform an ASX search, BMW, the Rego papers, Red Book search. It's very easy. You can browse, get the relevant document, and then you can either give the client the capacity to make that accessible to the other side, or you as the mediator can have that turned on only for yourself so that you can review those documents first. But easy to upload the documents, really saving that time in getting them all in paper. And I know some lawyers and mediators, they bring the paper documents in a big washing basket, dump them on your desk, not organised, and also COVID concerns as well. So this is really a good platform to get all the information, and then they can download not only their information, but the other parties' information in an index, a zip file, and share that as a link with anyone else as well that they agree that there's an agreement to share that with, such as their lawyer. So that hopefully has showcased a bit of a showcase on how you can use FamilyProperty to address the challenge of paperback versus electronic files. The next one I want to cover briefly, just noting the time, is what can we do instead of using a whiteboard? FamilyProperty really went deep with property mediation, and the technology can be used to accurately calculate, model, compare, and save proposals through a powerful interactive balance sheet for property mediation. So what happens, I'll take you into that now. Once the information is provided by the client or with you, you're meeting in the pre-mediation session with the client. Information will be populated into their own individual dashboard with personal details, their current situation, as well as their balance sheet. So you can confirm all the assets, liabilities and super, and even model out proposals. That's for party A, and then you can do the same for party B in their pre-mediation conference. Then what you can do is you can move across to a neutral balance sheet. The neutral balance sheet has an agenda. So property mediation, just like your whiteboard, but electronic. And you can add agenda items here, and you can also include automated agenda items if you'd wish. You can save that, print that, and come back to it at a later time. The neutral balance sheet itself has party A and party D details. So it's got the item, the ownership, the values, and the proposals, as well as any documents that have been made accessible. So for example, here, there's a little clip to show that there's a document that has been, say, the rego for the BMW there. So the benefit of this is you can go through and confirm the identity, ownership and value. And you can see here, you say 1.2 versus 2 million. You can look at the documents and then you can work through, okay, well, let's both agree on say 1.5 and apply that. You can see goes from red to green. The mortgage, oops, yes, I didn't realize it was up to 800,000. And you can work through each of the assets, liabilities and super to get an agreement. You can then work with the parties to model proposals. So you can work with party one or party two or both of them together to go, okay, you both agree, we've had a discussion around the house and you both agree to sell that and divide it equally. And you can see here, it's now automatically calculating what that looks like. Shares, okay, Alexander, you're to retain those shares. Sophia wants to get those shares. So you can see here, that's still in red because they both want those shares. You can go through the other items, okay, both agree. He's to retain his BMW, he's to retain his antique stamp collection. So that's in agreement. She's to retain the house. He was a bit, don't know if I want to do that, but in the end, he's agreed to that. She's to retain her car. They both agree to that. They'll divide this credit card. Both agree to that. And he wants to retain his super, but she wants that to be divided 50-50. And they both agree for her to retain her own super. So what you can do is you can then encourage the parties, look how far you've come. You've agreed on all of these things, but there's still some items. Okay, the shares, there's $5,000 shares. Maybe do the BATNA on, is it really worthwhile not agreeing and going to court over the $5,000? Okay, well, okay, I'll agree. Sophia can have the shares. I'll transfer those to her. And you might agree here, all right, well, we'll do maybe a 60-40 on, or maybe 60-40, that way probably is fairer, on the superannuation of Alexander. And then you can see everything's wonderfully green, and you've got the percentage. What does that equate to? Manually working out who retains what, 40, about 40-60%. Alexander might go, no, I really want 55%. Instead of trying to work that out manually, we can save that initial version, so initial option, and then we can model what does, and she might say, oh yeah, okay, I'll agree 45-55. What does that look like? We can quickly model 45-55 and go down to the bottom here, and that would be a payment to Alexander from Sophia of 87,150. And she might say, oh, well, I'm retaining the Castle Hill worth 500,000. I think I can get a mortgage for 7150. And that's how I'm going to do it. Yes, we reached an agreement. The benefit of that, you can then go straight to documents. There's a whole list of documents, but for this one, we may want to use the proposals for them to think about it, including both parties, or a heads of agreement. And the heads of agreement, all of these documents can be customised for your family relationship centre organisation or mediation practice. And you can see here all the documents are automated with the financial effect of the agreement and the percentage, what that equates to, as well as the summary of the agreement, what's to happen with real estate, motor vehicles, investments, liabilities, superannuation, etc. I hope that's shown you that you don't necessarily need the face-to-face whiteboard and the benefits of utilising family property for property mediations. The last couple of things I wanted to share with you is there has been some challenges in parenting mediation. People want to see visually the calendar. What does it look like? 3 nights and half the school holidays and half the special occasions. What does that look like on a calendar? And then how do we document the parenting plan and sign off, particularly when we're doing online mediation? So I'll just take you to the new parenting component of family property now, which has recently been launched. As you can see here, if you've got the information about the children, and that will be populated in there. And then you can go to the parenting arrangements. It automatically lists when the school term and school holidays dates are. So say for Victoria, and it has all of the dates for the next few years in there, as well as the upcoming special occasions. You can list the changeovers and then the general schedule. So it might be Alexander wants to sort of propose Wednesdays from after school to Sundays 5 p.m. Every second week, and half the school holidays. They want that to alternate each year. Christmas will be the same, half the school holidays, and then it automatically lists the special occasions, Easter, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Christmas, children's birthdays, parties, birthdays. And if you don't celebrate Easter, you can remove that, and you can also add additional occasions. What then happens is that will automatically populate into an interactive calendar. Just getting that up now. As you can see here, Sophia's time, Alexander's time, Sophia's time, and the time of the changeovers. That can be a fortnightly calendar or a monthly. And then you can move forward to, say, the Christmas periods and what happens in the school holidays there. That can all be printed 1 month or various months. And then the benefit of this, like we did with the heads of agreement, is you can then populate that into a parenting plan. This again is a template that you can put your own wording, your own logo, etc. But it all populates the parties' details, the children's details, as well as what the living arrangements are agreed upon, the school holidays, so quickly puts in 2021 versus 2022, special occasions, lists all of those, and then standard clauses around communication, education, health, travel, etc. that you can take out in your own template, or you can leave in and take out when you're updating it manually. With this, what I'm using, DocHub electronic signing. If they sign on the day, or they might take it away, get some further legal advice, come back to me, or sign themselves. But electronic signing, I'm finding is really helpful as well. So I think we're almost at the conclusion of my time. Just wanted to highlight, with family property, obviously the aim is to streamline the admin, really from intake to agreement, showcased intakes, disclosure, balance sheet, and document automation. Just want you to take some time. What are your key takeaways to navigating the challenges of FDR during these uncertain times? Just take a moment to do that. While I do that, just wanted to highlight, if you're interested in family property for your mediation practice or FRC or other organisation, then please contact us for a demo and you will receive a special National Mediation Conference offer. So please do contact me and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you. I'll stop my screen share now. And thank you. Bye.